What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to Bleacher Report. Now, it's kind of a boring time in the basketball season, right? For those of you new to the channel, yesterday we were reacting to Bleacher Report's top 100 NBA players list, which was interesting at times, and it's not normally content that I like to cover on this channel, but it's a boring time in the basketball season, so I figured let's just make this whole week about nonsensical basketball conversations, because why not, right? There's nothing else to really talk about right now. Free agency's a little bit slow, so today we're going to be ranking the most overrated NBA players right now. I asked in the last video if you guys were interested in reading this, and people had said yes, so I'm like, all right, you know what, let's just make the whole week out of this stuff. Why not? Not everything has to be analytical and super sensical every single time, so let's just try to have some fun with whatever Bleacher Report's writing in these. But before we do that, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment to my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. Again, we're going to be doing a lot of weird little videos like this week. That's not typical of the channel. I don't want to spend too much time on it outside of this week, but let's have some boring ESPN type conversations on this channel for once. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so the most overrated NBA players. Again, this is not something I think about too often, because what constitutes overrated? That's an initial question that I have, and so we want to make sure we're giving Bleacher Report kind of the opportunity to state its case here. So what is it saying? With free agency mostly figured out and the trade marketing quiet down, the NBA has clearly entered okay, so we're at the same point, Bleacher Report. Consider this a blaring alarm clock then. That's right, folks, we're talking the one topic sure to rile everyone up. Okay, we're in the same point then, Bleacher Report. I'm aligned here. The attempt here is to put some method into the madness. While it's still a subjective call, we're at least using the stat sheet, since numbers never lie. Yeah, exactly. To help shape these rankings. A couple of notes before we get things started. Former stars undone by injuries, cough, Joel Embiid won't end up here simply due to availableness. Okay, so we're not really talking about availability in this one. Injuries are injuries, and that's their own thing. I tend to agree with that. Finally, or it says this is also separate from being overpaid. There are certainly players who'd qualify in such lists here. I agree with that. You don't want to see a Bradley Beal end up on here, because he's a very good basketball player. He's just overpaid for or he was overpaid considering his level of maybe production at this point. Finally, since players must be fairly well regarded to even be considered as overrated, you'll exclusively see stars and notable names here. Okay, so we're not talking role players and stuff like that. That's kind of interesting. I'd be curious to see who else ends up on this list. So leave me a comment or something. Who are some of your overrated players? And maybe I'll debate you in the comments on it, because you guys know I relate to. Why can't I talk today? I respond to every single one of those. So if you guys have some crazy takes, this is the week to do so. You don't even have to back up the takes. Normally on this channel, you guys should go read the description of any of my videos, because I talk about my rules for the comment section there. You can just post a name for once. Well, let's just have some fun with it, I suppose. This doesn't mean these players are bad. In fact, all of them are good. It's just that the basketball world has tended to overreact or overrate to their impact. Okay, let's do this. Number 5, De'Aaron Fox. Okay, I'm trying to just wrap my head around this and say, is this even something I could potentially agree with? Because I don't partake in a lot of the online discourse of the NBA. It kind of just clouds my judgment, if anything else, when I'm trying to be objective with my company and the work that I do. So I don't necessarily feel the need to partake in a lot of this, but De'Aaron Fox, I could maybe see how he becomes overrated, because just thinking about his game, right? He's a scoring guard. That's what he's out there to do. He's not an elite playmaker. He's not an elite defensive player. The three-point shot isn't necessarily there, but conversations became pretty big when he ended up in San Antonio. We're okay, we kind of got this second star to be around Wemby. Is he actually kind of a star player, right? Again, this is why I don't like to have these conversations, because what even is a star player? But let's see. Fox, to be clear, is very good at what he does. Blink and you'll miss his arguably best in the association burst. Yeah, I've actually played against De'Aaron Fox before. That was insane. Never seen a guy move that fast in my life. Absolutely insane. It was like a bullet out of a gun trying to go up against him. He dropped a cool 40-ish something points on us. So yeah, is what it is. And we were a pretty good team. So let's move on. His coolness and clutch is literally award-winning quality. Yep, he's a super clutch player. To be fair, it's fair to wish he'd just do more, especially when he's possibly on the cusp of becoming a $50 million per year player. Yeah, we're not sure what kind of extension they're going to give. I'm glad that the Spurs are kind of waiting off on that to kind of see where things are at. I'm very curious to see now that he's not with the Kings. He gets a full offseason with the Spurs. We just know the organizational difference is a very big deal. He's just going to be playing with different players and around different people that can shape his game into different ways. So maybe we see a more versatile and all-around De'Aaron Fox. But yeah, like, would I feel comfortable giving him $50 million right now? Probably not. Public perception tends to regard him as a first or second tier floor general, but functionally he's more of a 6'3 scoring guard. I agree with that. Shaky outside shot. Yep, we talked about that. Less than elite passing vision. I'd agree with that. And defensive impact that falls way too short of the physical tools. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. While he shouldn't be blamed for the many flaws of the Kings, it's still worth noting he's led all of one playoff push in his first. Has he been around for 8 seasons now? How old am I? It feels like, Jesus, I guess that makes sense, actually. Whoa, whoa, okay, that's crazy to think about how long I've been, like, out of college now and stuff like that. But anyway, now this isn't a time for me to have a midlife crisis. Adding to the notion of his impact on winning, the career on-off differential sits at just a plus 0.06 or 0.6. I don't really care about that as much. Long-winded way of saying he's much closer to being a good player than a great one, yet you'll often hear him referred to as a star. He was even named an all-star once as an injury replacement. Yeah, the one light the beam Kings thing is all he really has to his name. I do think it's fair to say, though, that, like, look, sorry, Sacramento Kings fans, I'm right there with you being a Bulls fan, but your organization sucks. It wasn't going to do a great job of putting, like, key talent around him anyway, but they did have some pretty good coaches from my understanding, and they had some pretty good players around him, and they never quite got to that level, so I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely some blame on him. Don't get me wrong, but also this organization just is notorious for kind of having this happen. So I mean, at some point you have to look in the mirror. But I guess this is kind of a fair person to put on the list. I guess that's fair. Ooh, we have some dishonorable mentions. Scotty Barnes. I kind of agree with that one. I don't think Scotty Barnes is as good as some people think that he is. Ja Morant, I tend to agree with that one as well. I don't think he's as good of a player as maybe the average person thinks that he is. Like, that's the kind of guy who, like, we've all seen his highlights and everything, and I've been on the other side of Ja Morant as well. Scary as shit what he's able to do on a basketball court, but I don't know if... I don't know if I put him in, like, as elite of a category as other people. I think he has the ability to. Again, let's make it clear. All of these guys have the ability to be elite players, right? And then Domantas Sabonis, I highly disagree with that. I think he's extremely underrated, more so than anything else. And I think the analytics kind of confirm that. But I guess you could use a lot of the same arguments that you did against Fox with him. But I don't know. I think Sabonis is... pretty effective overall. But anyway, Austin Reeves. Okay, so we're saying what? That he's kind of the beneficiary of playing for the Lakers, being a big scoring guard. There's probably something to be said about, hey, he's a white guy going and getting buckets like this in the NBA, and I should say American white guy that goes and does this, right? Like, we always get a little bit infatuated with guys like that just because it's not as common in the NBA, right? So why could he be overrated? I guess defensively, like, there's the struggles of things. Offensively, I think he's pretty damn awesome at what he does, like, just as a scorer, especially when he has other good players around him. I think he's a pretty good leader. I think he's pretty tough. I don't know. I'm curious to see. Life under the Hollywood spotlight has both its perks and promises. Performing inside a fishbowl magnifies both the strengths and shortcomings, leading to confusing views of a player's true value. Yep, that makes sense. In other words, it isn't really Reeves' fault he's on the list, but he's also benefiting from being perhaps the most talked about third option in basketball. Fair. How many, if any, headlines would be dedicated to him if he was putting up the same 20 points in, say, New Orleans? Yeah, no, 100%. The playing for the Lakers just puts a magnifying glass on you. Those are good numbers, sure, but they're not spectacular. For that matter, neither of his career marks in player efficiency rating, 15.5, blah, 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 BPM, blah, 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 is a skilled scorer, capable secondary playmaker, but he's not elite in either category. I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't consider him like an elite scorer and or an elite playmaker, but I feel like his role is more so secondary playmaker, right? And I think he does that really well. I guess if people are thinking of him as more of a primary scorer, then that's the case, and maybe I'm not following the discourse online as well as other people, but that's how I tend to view him as a secondary scorer. Like De'Aaron Fox, I need him to be kind of like a go-to guy type of thing. So this, I understand. Add it all up, and you're looking at an offensive leaning, solid starter, perhaps high-end six man. No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, he's scoring 30 points a game on a good or 30 points, 20 points a game on a good basketball team. Yet you'll hear talk of him being a star. Who's saying that? If that's the case, then yeah, I guess I agree. Being untouchable and potentially soon being paid north of 30 million annually. I mean, he might be paid more than 30 million annually, like, because that's just what a player of like that can get you 20 points any single night gets paid at this point. But yeah, I don't think he's a star by any means, but I think he's a solid third option. I really do. He might be a high-end role player, which most third options are, but that's probably where he tops out, because while he may seem young in terms of NBA service, his 27th birthday is already behind him. Is that true? Wow. Okay, yeah, that's something to think about. It's possibly we've already seen his best. I doubt that. He seems like the kind of player that kind of just keeps on improving his game, at least from what I understand. More optimistic portion of his fan base. Yeah, no, I get what they're saying, though, so I don't completely disagree with it. Maybe I just have different expectations of like Austin Reeves than the general population. You guys let me know. Do you guys think Austin Reeves is maybe a little bit overrated by the general population, which, let's be clear, the general population is full of dum-dums. They are. Look, I'm a dum-dum too. My one thing that I just happen to know a decent amount about is basketball. Everything else, I'm pretty in the dark about. I think I'm okay at like business strategy and things like that, but like I'm a dum-dum with a lot of other things. That's why I try to research a bunch of shit before I talk and put comments out on the internet. But you know, is what it is. Jaren Jackson Jr. Interesting. So I'm a guy that's really big on Jaren Jackson Jr. I like him a lot, so maybe I'm overrating him. Why could we possibly be overrating Jaren Jackson Jr., a guy that's kind of a DPOY type candidate? He's kind of the model big man for the NBA at this point. He doesn't rebound a ton. This team also doesn't put a ton of emphasis on like the rebounding either. He gets into foul trouble sometimes, so that can be a bit of a problem for some of the DPOY type stuff, but like he's able to create for himself. He can shoot. He's had to play with so many different like lineups with like Ja Morant being out. I don't think you guys understand, like plugging and playing like star players and like taking them out is a very complicated thing to do. So I give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt there. It's not the best team construction around him either, but I guess we should just read what they kind of have to say. Jackson is, at least in theory, the ideal big for the modern NBA. We agree. Shape-shifting switch defender, premier paint protector, who also just happens to be a 20-point scorer, and he can shoot from the outside. Still only 25 years old. He's already been twice selected as an all-star, thrice selected as all-defensive honoree, and was once crowned DPOY. Yeah, so what is the issue? His reality rarely rises anywhere near the ideal level. Okay, he isn't a good or even average rebounder, career 5.5 when he's listed at 6'10". So rebounding, it's hard, right? Because yeah, 6'10", I want you to be getting rebounds and stuff like that. The team might not necessarily be having him do stuff like that. Like, you do talk about guys that are supposed to crash, that are supposed to leak, doing other things. That's kind of part of coaching and strategy, stuff like that. And it doesn't seem like he's told to as much, which can sometimes happen with star level players like this, but I get what you're saying. He mutes his own defensive impact by fouling his way off the floor. Career 4.6 per 36 minutes. I don't really care about the per 36 minutes quite as much. His scoring is a lot of spoon-fed stuff. 55% of his twos and 95% of his threes have been assisted. And his shooting efficiency comes and goes. 37.5 from three this last season, 32 the year prior. Again, I don't think you can judge a lot of that quite as much because the Grizzlies roster has been through so much turmoil, going through different coaches, players in and out, right? We all remember, like 2 seasons ago, that Grizzlies team had so many injuries it wasn't even funny, right? Like they were playing some no names really from that roster. So I don't really know if the last couple of years are the best indicators of things, but anyway, he's still regarded as a star and is paid like a superstar. The stat sheet doesn't show it. He's inconsistent in both availability, that's fair to say, and impact net difference, or net differential in 4 of 7 seasons. Okay, well, part of that is the Grizzlies were a rebuilding team in early years, and then they just had those down years. So I think those stats are a little bit skewed as well. He isn't much of a ball handler or playmaker. I actually think his ball handling is pretty good for his size. So a lot of his value is tied to defensive ability and floor spacing. He's almost like a jumbo size 3 and D wing. That is an interesting way of looking at him, which is helpful to have, but certainly not face of the franchise material. I'm not saying Jaren Jackson Jr. is like face of the franchise type dude. I do think he's kind of a star player, though. And while he hasn't had a ton of playoff experience, most of it has been a mess, his career postseason. But I mean, the whole Grizzlies team have just been kind of a mess, right? So again, I don't know if I can judge it quite as much, but the point is, they're right. He's maybe not producing at the level that we'd expect. But that's when the kind of notes or nitpicky things that an AVC comes in and says, and is like, well, okay, yeah, you're saying this happened, but why did this happen, right? Is it really a him thing? Is it the product of an environment type thing? Because even going into this next season, like the Grizzlies still didn't really address like a wing or center issue, right? And we know that that's been a thing that they've had to do for forever, and they still can't seem to figure it out, right? What's going to happen with Ja Morant? We don't know. There's just a lot of inconsistency going on there. So I'm curious. I'm very, very curious. And I don't necessarily disagree with some of their points. Like, he's far from perfect. Far from perfect. But I think there's a bit more nuance in the conversation here than maybe they're leading us to believe. But let me know what you guys think about that. Moving on, Tyler Hero. This is one I'm not surprised to see on the list at all. But I'm also a little bit like, again, I'm not in the conversations of things, but I feel like Heat fans who tend to really love their people will be the first to tell you they don't want to like build a team around Tyler Hero. So Tyler Hero, bucket getter, right? Dude is a bucket. The playmaking's getting a little bit better. It's still not all that great. He's still kind of in this like scoring two guard type of role that can't quite create his own offense yet, right? Like, he's pretty good at it, but like he's not like top tier level creator, and he doesn't do much else for you necessarily on the basketball court outside of being a scorer. His archetype just doesn't really exist like in a lot of winning scenarios, right, around the NBA yet. He's kind of the guy, right, on this team, and it seems like they might be moving forward with him kind of as that guy. He's another testament to Miami developing a very good player. He was an all-star last season, incredibly efficient. But there's some glaring weaknesses. So he's one of the breakout stars until he wasn't, after being called out for his defensive deficiencies by Cleveland Cavaliers guard Darius Garland following Game 2 of their first-round matchup with Miami. Hero vowed to take advantage of the fact Garland doesn't play defense and promised we'll see that in the rest of the series. He went on to shoot 6 for 23. Yeah, you call your shot. That shit happens sometimes. The defensive limitations with Hero have been obvious for ages. Yep, agree with that. But the hope was that his offensive prowess could overcome them. Yep, because that sometimes just is the case. Because look, he's not a super athlete or anything like that, right? So there just are going to be some deficiencies there. He's just not a high-end first option, at least not when he's up against playoff defenses. That's a very true point, because, right, when you have time to actually game plan for these people, these, like, not primary, like, initiator playmaker types, they kind of get shut down, like, a little bit more in the playoffs, right? Because you have time to game plan for them. They don't have as many moves that they can go to, right? And it's just kind of what happens. Or built to handle the building block role Miami has thrust upon him, perhaps due to, scoring guards who are subpar defenders and no better than secondary playmakers have seen their value torpedo in modern NBA. Yep, we were just talking about that, but yet they're predicting come October he's going to get like a 3-year, $150 million contract. Yeah, and I feel like that'll make Heat fans kind of nervous. Even in the NBA's inflated economy, shouldn't that kind of money be reserved for a needle mover? I tend to agree with that, because Hero isn't that. He's a skilled scorer with a bit of shot creation in his repertoire, but that's kind of it. Yeah, I agree with that statement. Prior to this past season, he'd never averaged more than 20.8 points. Well, there was another good player on the team in Jimmy Butler at that point, but in the Heat are more of a win-by-committee type team. 4.5 assists. He didn't get to the free throw line much. He set a career mark in 24-25, blah, 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 blah. If you think he's building towards an even brighter future, then he's not overrated. If this is more like his peak, which I could see that being the case, though, then he's no better than the second or third option on a good team, and maybe a clear number 3 on a contender, and will require careful roster handling around him for his defensive weaknesses. A franchise player, he is not. So, like, do people really think that he is, I guess, more so is my question, because I don't necessarily disagree with the shortcomings of Tyler Hero here. And again, mind you, like we said at the beginning, all of these are very good basketball players. Tyler Hero is an incredible basketball player. Another guy that I have been on the other side of, and he's a hell of a basketball player. He really is. But do people really see him as like franchise good? Like at least from like my Discord, which by the way, go join the Discord. Link is in the description down below. Go there to talk basketball at all times. I feel like Heat fans will like let you know that, at least the ones that are in my Discord. But maybe those people are more rational than the average basketball fan. I don't know, but I can't imagine Heat fans kind of feel that way. So I don't know. Let's move on. Oh, number 1, LaMelo Ball. Can he be on the list just because of that crazy tattoo that he got on his foot? Did you guys see that? That was disgusting. I saw a comment being like, could you imagine your dad gets like his foot amputated, like LaMelo had LeVar Ball. LeVar got like his leg amputated or whatever, and then you go and tattoo your foot like that. Oh, if I'm his pops, I'm smacking the shit out of him. Was be like, boy, what you doing with them flaming toes? Get out of here. Like, oh my god, they should take your foot. They should take your foot. I I had another thought too. I'm like, what they should be tattooing on his feet are like braces or something for those ankles, man, who can't stay healthy. But we're not here to poke at injuries right now. But I'm actually at first I thought when I saw LaMelo on this, I was like, well, injuries and stuff. But when you think about it, like, he really is like a really like inefficient basketball player for the most part. Again, he's played for the Hornets, right? The Hornets are a kind of a poverty franchise right now. We hope that the Hornets are going in a better direction now. We hope. We don't know for sure yet. They've been making a lot of smart moves in like the last year and a half with this new regime, and it looks like they're starting to play some strategic ball. We don't necessarily see where they're going yet, and I don't think they even completely know yet. It's totally reasonable for them to kind of be in like a, okay, let's wait, let's see what's going on right now type of phase. Let's see who we want to keep around, right? Let's kind of evaluate some things, build up our asset pool in the meantime so that when we're ready to go. Totally makes logical sense, right? LaMelo Ball, when looking at him, not the most efficient player, hasn't been on very good basketball teams. That's understandable. He's extremely talented, though. He's got some defensive prowess, even though like he doesn't necessarily even show it all the time. Takes a lot of bad looks, kind of has to be that guy more often than not. We know the maturity is sometimes an issue, but let's see what's going on. There are few players who are more fun to watch on and off the court, isn't that the truth, than Charlotte's flashy floor general. Ball is a social media star and a highlight waiting to happen as he pairs both in-gym shooting range with some of the most inventive passes you'll find in the association. Yeah, like his basketball IQ is like actually like so impressive, right? It really is. While he can and often does overstuff the stat sheet, though, it all looks like there's way more sizzle than actual substance. Maybe that's the byproduct of playing on some bad teams in Buzz City. Agreed here. We're agreeing a lot with this article. But he has enough box score blemishes to question his ability to contribute to winning basketball. That's a genuine question I have. He draws almost mythical praise as this offensive savant, which I do think he is, but the numbers don't buy it. A lack of offensive support can only forgive so much inefficiency. While he averaged a career-best 25 points this year, he did so while posting a career-worst 53% true shooting percentage. That is rough. It marked the 5th worst shooting rate amongst the 162 times a player has averaged 20. Yeah, that's rough. And since his ingenious passes are often... let's see, there's a lot of mistakes, yada yada yada. Yeah, gets a lot of assists. Okay, we kind of already talked about this. He's also made more than 51 appearances in just one of his 5 NBA seasons. You said at the beginning, we're not talking about availability, so don't counter yourself here. He's injured. That's 24 fewer appearances than Zion. Oh wow, that is kind of crazy to think. At least when Zion suits up, great things tend to happen. Yeah, that is the thing. When Zion's on the basketball court, like, he does dominate and help them win basketball games. Like, that's the challenging thing with him. So I don't necessarily disagree, man. Like, I have questions about LaMelo. Obviously, the injuries are one thing and the lack of maturity, and I think that kind of is why you kind of see some of this like inefficiency on the court at times, but you can't deny like the talent on that kid is amazing. And like, I do think he's kind of an offensive savant in a lot of ways. I just think he sees things that other people don't see, much like Lonzo Ball does, but I think Lonzo maybe has more maturity to him, and that's why he's sometimes able to be more effective to winning, like you got to see in some of his time in Chicago before the injuries happened, right? And obviously he was kind of maturing up to that point, so we're down to give him time, but yeah, I've got questions about LaMelo Ball. I really, really do. But anyway, that's kind of what we're looking at for this list. I don't tend to disagree with this. Looking at some of the other like people that they noted here, like Scotty Barnes, Ja Morant, Sabonis, I didn't agree with that one. I think this is an interesting list. I am kind of curious to see most underrated Overrated. If I can spell anything today. NBA players. Are there like any? Oh, not of all time. Just in general right now. So this was like the list or whatever. Oh, there's an AI overview of it. Jalen Brunson, Aaron Wake. No. I'm kind of curious about like who some of these people are. White voted second most underrated NBA player. Oh no, I typed in underrated. I need overrated. That's why Jalen Brunson was there. I'm just kind of curious. I can't type anything today. Overrated NBA players. I'm kind of curious to see like kind of who else is coming up here. So this is from like 3 months ago on basketball Reddit. So this must be part of it. Tyrese Halliburton. I know that was a discussion at one point this year. I feel like he kind of countered that. Rudy Gobert. I could see why he might end up on this list. Trae Young, I could maybe see it. Jimmy Butler, I don't know. Bradley Beal, if anything, he's probably underrated in my mind. Draymond Green, you think he's overrated? That's idiotic. But this is obviously not this person. This is from the poll that the NBA put out this year. Some people said Giannis. Shout out Dylan Brooks for being on here. Drew Holiday, that's a crazy take. Kyle Kuzma, who is overrating Kyle Kuzma? I don't know. Who else do they kind of have on here? This is why I don't like going on Reddit and stuff like this. LaMelo, did he put someone on Landell? My bad, I can't read any of this stuff. I don't know. It doesn't look like anybody else is really popping up all that much. I don't know. I kind of find it interesting to take a look at nonetheless. But seriously, I appreciate you guys as always. And yeah, let's move forward to the comment of the video. All right, y'all. Comment of the video is coming from our reacting to Bleacher Report's wild top 100 NBA players of all time list. Again, go give it a watch. Doesn't look like it's performing great in the first 24 hours, which, you know, meh. I tried to give you guys another longer video, but if you don't like it, you don't like it. So now we're trying something shorter. And again, another kind of nonsensical topic. But the comment of the video comes from Anana Mususer69. Okay, who I just really enjoyed this comment. This is kind of like an ideal comment for me. It's thought through, it's well constructed, it's easy to read, so thank you. So I think the major problem with lists of the best players is that on a real list of the top 100 best players ever, like 60 of them would be from modern players of the last 20 years. Totally agree with that, right? Because there's, like with anything, talent kind of builds on itself for ability. Think about like scientists. Like a scientist in the 1700s discovering something is very innovative, but he's not nearly as smart as some of the dumbest scientists today, because the scientists today have the benefit of knowing everything that the last people knew, right? So that doesn't, again, mean that they weren't geniuses for their time and stuff like that, but people grow. And like basketball is the same thing. Like at some point, somebody was a right-handed guy and decided, I'm going to go this way and hit him with a crossover. And everyone was like, whoa, like what the hell? And so people build on those things. So most players today are way better than the ones back in the day. But anyway, the game builds upon itself, and so many guards today would go nuclear if they were sent back in a time machine, and a lot of the older guys wouldn't hold up if they were just put into this upcoming season without the benefit of modern training, sports science, and basketball theory. So true. This is why we have to lay out the criteria for ranking before making one of these lists. To your Kyrie point, in terms of skill, Kyrie is really high up there all time, but in terms of career, there's a ton of guys who are more accomplished. And yeah, the article just didn't do that, and I wish that they would have, because then we can have more objective conversations about things. But seriously, elite comment, one of the better ones I've seen in a while. Like, this is awesome stuff. Really appreciate it. But yeah, if you guys want to be a part of more conversations, go join the Discord. Link is down in the description below. People are talking on there all the time. I've literally got notifications going off on my phone constantly for this stuff, and I'm so glad that people love it. But yeah, I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye.